Behind the heroic image of Bill Longley and his pinto Domino lurked secrets that would shock 1950s audiences. A star with a criminal past that rivaled the outlaws he chased, a real gunfighter transformed into a TV hero despite being a racist serial killer, and a production schedule so brutal it filmed 2 episodes per week. From scandalous divorces naming 79 women to Lucy and Desi's hidden involvement, this forgotten Western hides stories stranger than any script. Here are the 15 weird facts you didn't know about the Texan, 1958 to 1960. Fact 1. The real Bill Longley was a racist serial killer. When viewers tuned in to watch the noble and heroic Bill Longley on the Texan, they had no idea they were watching a character based on one of the Old West's most vicious killers. The real William Preston Longley, known as Wild Bill, was born in 1851 in Texas and began his murderous career at just 15 years old when he shot and killed a freed slave named Green Evans in 1868. Unlike the honorable Confederate captain portrayed by Rory Calhoun, the historical Longley was a racist serial killer who specifically targeted African Americans during the Reconstruction era, murdering freed slaves and bragging about his crimes. He was known throughout Texas as a liar, thief, and bigot who killed at least a dozen people, though some historians believe the actual number was much higher. Longley's reputation was so brutal that when he was finally captured and tried for murder, the verdict was never in doubt. He was hanged in Giddings, Texas on October 11, 1878, at the age of 26. Hollywood completely transformed this monster into a wandering hero who helped people in need and fought for justice. The fictional Bill Longley was everything the real one wasn't: noble, decent, and courageous. Only Hollywood could take a documented racist murderer and turn him into a television hero, creating one of the most jarring disconnects between historical reality and TV fiction in Western television history. Fact 2. Star Rory Calhoun was an ex-con who did hard time. Long before Rory Calhoun became a handsome television hero, riding across the Texas plains, he was Francis Timothy McCown, a troubled teenager running from the law. At age 13, young Francis stole a revolver and was sent to the California Youth Authority's Preston School of Industry Reformatory at Ione, California, but his criminal career was just beginning. While at the reformatory's Adjustment Center, which was essentially a jail within the jail, Francis managed to escape and went on a crime spree that would land him in some of America's toughest prisons. He robbed several jewelry stores because the stolen goods were easy to sell for quick cash, and then made a critical mistake that changed everything. He stole a car and drove it across state lines, which made it a federal offense. When authorities recaptured him, Francis was sentenced to 3 years. At the United States Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri, where he learned to box and won 10 out of 12 bouts against professional fighters who were also serving time. After completing that sentence, he was transferred to San Quentin State Penitentiary in California on additional charges and remained there until he was paroled just before his 21st birthday. A Catholic priest named Father Donald Canali worked with the young prisoner and helped turn his life around, teaching him that he could be more than just a criminal. This hardened ex-convict would eventually become a television star, transforming himself so completely that audiences never suspected the truth. Fact 3. His criminal past was exposed to protect Rock Hudson. By 1955, Rory Calhoun had successfully buried his criminal past and was enjoying a thriving career in Hollywood, appearing in major films and building his reputation as a reliable leading man. But his agent, Henry Wilson, was about to make a decision that would expose everything. Wilson, who was himself gay, represented both Calhoun and the rising star Rock Hudson. And when he discovered that Confidential magazine was about to publish an expose revealing Hudson's homosexuality, he knew it could destroy Hudson's career in an era when being gay meant professional suicide in Hollywood. Wilson made a calculated deal with the tabloid. If they agreed to kill the Hudson story, he would give them something equally scandalous: the complete details of Rory Calhoun's years in reformatories and federal prisons. The magazine agreed, and Wilson sacrificed one client to save another. When the Confidential article hit newsstands with all the details of Calhoun's criminal youth, everyone in Hollywood expected his career to collapse. but something unexpected happened instead. Rather than destroying him, the revelation only enhanced Calhoun's rugged bad boy image and made him even more appealing to audiences who now saw him as a real-life tough guy who had turned his life around. The scandal had absolutely no negative impact on his career, and he continued working steadily in films and television. Meanwhile, Rock Hudson's secret remained safe for decades, and his career flourished, making Wilson's ruthless bargain one of the most successful damage control moves in Hollywood history. Fact 4. Calhoun's divorce. Named 79 women, including Betty Grable. Rory Calhoun married actress and singer Lita Barron on August 28, 1948, and together they had 3 daughters named Cindy, Tammy, and Lori, during what appeared from the outside to be a stable Hollywood marriage. However, behind closed doors, Calhoun's wandering eye was legendary throughout the entertainment industry, and when Barron finally filed for divorce in June of 1969 after 21 years of marriage, she made sure the world knew exactly why. In her divorce petition filed in Los Angeles Superior Court, Barron named an astonishing 79 women with whom she alleged Calhoun had committed adultery during their marriage, and the list included some of Hollywood's biggest names. Among the 79 women was Betty Grable, the famous pinup girl and actress who had co-starred with Calhoun in several films, including How to Marry a Millionaire, where he had played her love interest. When reporters asked Calhoun about his wife's shocking allegations, his response became one of the most quoted lines in Hollywood divorce history. Rather than denying the accusations or expressing remorse, Calhoun simply said, "Heck, she didn't even include half of them," essentially admitting that the actual number was even higher. Both Calhoun and Grable later denied they had been anything more than friends, but the damage to his reputation was done, though once again, it seemed to only enhance his bad boy image rather than hurt his career in any meaningful way. Fact 5. The production schedule was brutally demanding. Behind the scenes of the Texan, the production schedule was so punishing that it's amazing the show maintained any quality at all, and it ultimately became the main reason Rory Calhoun walked away from what could have been a longer-running series. The show operated on a budget of just $40,000 per episode, which was relatively modest even for 1958, but the real challenge wasn't the money. It was the timeline. Desilu Productions and Calhoun's own Rorvik Productions company were filming 2 complete 30-minute episodes every single week on Stage 11 at the Desilu Studios lot, a pace that left cast and crew exhausted. This meant that Calhoun, who was not only starring in the show, but also serving as a producer, was essentially working 7 days a week to keep up with the demanding schedule. Location shooting at Pearl Flats in the Mojave Desert added travel time to an already packed schedule, and with the need to memorize scripts, perform stunts, and manage production decisions, the workload became overwhelming. After completing 79 episodes across 2 seasons in just 2 years, Calhoun had reached his breaking point. When CBS offered to renew The Texan for a 3rd season, Calhoun turned them down flat, telling the network he wanted to return to feature films where the schedule was more manageable and he would have more time between projects. The grueling pace of television production in the late 1950s was notorious for burning out talent, and The Texan stands as a perfect example of how the demand for content could push even dedicated professionals to their limits. Fact 6. Lucy and Desi were secret executive producers. While Rory Calhoun and his partner Victor Orsatti received on-screen credit as producers through their Rorvik Productions company, 2 of television's biggest stars were working behind the scenes without any public acknowledgement of their involvement. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz served as uncredited executive producers on The Texan through their powerhouse company, Desilu Productions, which was the 2nd largest independent television production company in the United States at the time. Desi Arnaz had actually recommended Calhoun for the project, and the show was filmed on Stage 11 at the Desilu Studios lot, using the same facilities and crew that had made I Love Lucy one of the most successful shows in television history. The connection between Arnaz and Calhoun's partner Victor Orsatti was particularly strong. Arnaz and Orsatti were actually neighbors, which helped facilitate the business relationship that brought the Texan to life. During the production run from 1958 to 1960, Lucy and Desi were dealing with their own marital problems and eventually divorced the day after filming their last Lucy-Desi Comedy Hour episode in 1960. The same year, the Texan ended its run. Despite their personal troubles, Desilu continued to be a television factory, producing multiple successful shows simultaneously. The company's involvement with the Texan came during a period when Desilu was also creating The Untouchables and would soon produce Star Trek and Mission Impossible, making it one of the most important production companies in television history, even though most viewers watching the Texan had no idea Lucy and Desi were behind it. Fact 7. Western legend Louis L'Amour wrote episodes. The Texan didn't just rely on regular television writers to create its stories. The show managed to attract one of the greatest Western writers of all time to contribute authentic frontier tales. Louis L'Amour, who would eventually write over 100 novels and 400 short stories about the American West, wrote teleplays for several episodes during the show's 2-season run. At the time the Texan was in production, L'Amour was already well known for his novel Hondo, which had been adapted into a successful 1953 film starring John Wayne, and his reputation for authentic, gritty Western storytelling made him a valuable asset to any production. The show hired 35 different writers over its 79-episode run, but having Louis L'Amour's name attached gave the Texan a level of credibility that many other television Westerns couldn't match. L'Amour's involvement wasn't just a publicity stunt. He actually wrote original stories specifically for the series, bringing his deep knowledge of frontier history and his talent for creating morally complex characters to the small screen. His teleplays added authentic touches to the show's depiction of post-Civil War Texas, drawing on the same research and historical understanding that made his novels so popular with readers who wanted their Westerns to feel real rather than purely fictional. The collaboration between L'Amour and the show's producers demonstrated that the Texan, despite its modest budget and punishing production schedule, was committed to quality storytelling and wanted to stand alongside the best Western television shows of the era like Gunsmoke and Have Gun Will Travel. Fact 8. The show beat its competition and then mysteriously dropped. When the Texan premiered on Monday nights in September of 1958, it faced direct competition from NBC's The Restless Gun, starring John Payne, another Western series about a wandering gunfighter helping people in need. The ratings battle between these two similar shows became one of the more interesting programming competitions of the season, and the Texan emerged as the clear winner. By the end of the 1958-59 television season, the Texan had climbed to number 15 in the national ratings with an average viewership of 12.4 million people, while The Restless Gun fell out of the top 30 entirely and was subsequently canceled in 1959. This success should have guaranteed the Texan a strong second season, and CBS certainly believed they had a hit on their hands. However, something strange happened during the 1959-60 season. Despite maintaining decent ratings and continuing to produce quality episodes, the Texan completely failed to crack the top 30 shows and disappeared from the ratings charts almost entirely. Television historians have never fully explained this mysterious drop in popularity, though some have speculated that the show suffered from increased competition as more Westerns flooded the airwaves, viewer fatigue with the genre, or possibly the reuse of footage in the second season that sharp-eyed viewers noticed. The network had also scheduled The Kate Smith Show immediately before The Texan during the second half of Season 2, and that show was struggling badly, which may have hurt the Texans' lead-in audience. Whatever the reason, the rapid fall from 15th place to complete obscurity remains one of the more puzzling rating collapses in television Western history. Fact 9. Calhoun's horse appeared in the Big Country. First, the distinctive pinto horse that became synonymous with the Texan and appeared in the show's opening sequence every week had already been a movie star before Rory Calhoun ever sat in the saddle. According to production records and trivia documented by film historians, the same horse, or possibly one of two similar horses used interchangeably, had been ridden by Charlton Heston in the epic 1958 Western film The Big Country, which was released the same year the Texan premiered on television. The horse was named Domino, though some eagle-eyed viewers of the Texan claim to have spotted two slightly different pinto horses used throughout the series, with one named Domino and another named Dice. The supposed difference between them was subtle but noticeable to dedicated fans. Domino had an omega-shaped white spot on the lower right side of his neck, while Dice had more white coloring overall. Whether there were truly two horses or just one whose markings appeared different depending on lighting and camera angles remains a subject of debate among fans. What isn't in dispute is that the horse became almost as important to the show's identity as Calhoun himself, with Australian viewers particularly remembering how children would recreate the distinctive way Calhoun dismounted from his pinto in their backyards. One viewer even noted that the horse could be nasty in several scenes, but was always beautiful to watch. The connection to the big country, which starred Gregory Peck and won Burl Ives an Oscar, gave the Texan an unintentional link to one of the most prestigious westerns of the era. Fact 10. The show, sponsored by cigarettes, featured on-screen pitches. Like many television shows in the 1950s, The Texan was brought to audiences by a tobacco company, but the integration of cigarette advertising went far beyond simple commercial breaks between scenes. Viceroy Cigarettes sponsored the entire first season of The Texan, paying for production costs in exchange for prominent advertising placement throughout each episode. What made this arrangement particularly striking was that Rory Calhoun himself appeared at the end of episodes in specially filmed segments where he spoke directly to viewers while promoting Viceroy Cigarettes, essentially using his character's credibility and likability to sell tobacco products to the American public. These on-screen pitches were common practice in television during this era, with stars regularly endorsing their sponsors' products as part of their contracts. But looking back from the 21st century, the sight of a Western hero encouraging viewers to smoke seems jarring and deeply inappropriate. Viewers watching preserved episodes today can see these original Viceroy commercials, which were filmed on the show's sets with Calhoun still in costume, blurring the line between entertainment and advertising in ways that would later be prohibited by broadcast standards. The first season was considered the better of the two seasons, partly because the Viceroy sponsorship money provided adequate funding, while the second season struggled with a reduced budget after the sponsorship arrangement changed. This relationship between tobacco companies and television programming was so pervasive in the 1950s that it seemed completely normal at the time, though within a few decades, cigarette advertising would be banned from television entirely. Fact 11. Calhoun turned down a third season for films. Despite the Texans' success and CBS's eagerness to continue the series, Rory Calhoun made the deliberate and somewhat surprising decision to walk away from guaranteed television work to pursue what he hoped would be a more prestigious career in feature films. After completing 79 episodes across 2 grueling seasons, Calhoun told the network that he wanted to concentrate on movies rather than continue the exhausting schedule of weekly television production. What makes this decision particularly ironic is what Calhoun himself later said about his film career in a remarkably honest 1959 interview given while The Texan was still on the air. When asked about his body of work in Hollywood, Calhoun admitted that out of all the films he had made, he believed only 2 were actually any good, with A Song in My Heart, where he appeared alongside Susan Hayward in 1952, and How to Marry a Millionaire, the 1953 Marilyn Monroe comedy where he played Betty Grable's love interest. As for the rest of his filmography, Calhoun bluntly called them terrible, showing an unusual level of self-awareness and honesty for a working actor. After leaving The Texan, Calhoun did return to making films, but most of them were low-budget B-westerns and exploitation pictures that proved his own assessment correct. They were largely forgettable and failed to elevate his career in the way he had hoped. He continued to make occasional television appearances on shows like Gunsmoke, Bonanza, and Death Valley Days, and eventually even appeared on Gilligan's Island, suggesting that perhaps leaving his own successful series had been a mistake after all. Fact 12. He nearly became James West on The Wild Wild West. After The Texan concluded its run in 1960, Rory Calhoun found himself looking for his next major project, and an opportunity arose that could have defined the rest of his career and made him a household name for an entirely new generation of viewers. CBS was developing a new Western series called The Wild Wild West, which would combine traditional Western elements with James Bond-style spy adventures. creating a unique hybrid that the network hoped would revitalize the Western genre. The producers considered Calhoun for the lead role of James West, the dashing Secret Service agent who would travel the American frontier in a luxury train car, fighting bizarre villains and saving the country from various threats. On paper, Calhoun seemed like an ideal choice. He had already proven he could carry a Western series for 2 seasons. He had the rugged good looks and physical presence the role required, and he was available and eager for work. However, when Calhoun came in to audition and perform a screen test for the producers, something didn't click. The producers were not impressed with his performance, finding that he lacked the charm, wit, and lighter touch that they envisioned for James West, who needed to be as comfortable with a quip as with a gun. Instead of offering the role to Calhoun, they turned to Robert Conrad, a younger actor with more charisma and comedic timing. Conrad would go on to make The Wild Wild West, a hit that ran from 1965 to 1969 and became one of the most memorable shows of the decade, securing his place in television history, while Calhoun continued working in largely forgettable films and guest spots. Fact 13. Second season recycled. First season footage. As the Texan struggled through its second season with reduced budgets and declining ratings, the production team made a controversial decision that eagle-eyed viewers couldn't help but notice. Instead of creating entirely new episodes with fresh footage, the show began reusing actual scenes and sequences from first season episodes, reworking the plots and changing character names while keeping the same action sequences, establishing shots, and even some dialogue scenes. This cost-cutting measure was fairly obvious to dedicated fans who had watched the first season and could recognize specific scenes, stunts, and locations being recycled with minimal changes. The practice of reusing footage wasn't entirely uncommon in low-budget television production, but the Texans' reliance on it during the second season suggested that the show was running out of both money and creative energy. Some episodes would feature new material in the dramatic and dialogue-heavy scenes while dropping in action sequences from previous episodes, creating a patchwork quality that undermined the show's overall consistency. Viewers and critics at the time noted this decline in quality, which may have contributed to the show's mysterious fall from the top 15 in Season 1 to complete absence from the ratings in Season 2. The recycled footage wasn't just limited to brief establishing shots or crowd scenes. Entire sequences of Calhoun riding his horse, engaging in fistfights, or drawing his gun were lifted wholesale from earlier episodes and edited into new contexts. This transparent cost-cutting move signaled that everyone involved knew the end was near. And rather than investing more resources into a struggling show, the production simply tried to stretch their existing material as far as it would go. Fact 14. 9 episodes are lost forever. When Timeless Media Group set out to create a definitive DVD collection of The Texan in 2008, 50 years after the show first aired, they faced an unexpected and disappointing discovery. Of the 79 episodes that were produced and broadcast between 1958 and 1960, only 70 could be located in condition good enough to transfer to DVD and release to the public. The remaining 9 episodes had either been lost entirely or existed only in prints so badly degraded that restoration was impossible with available technology and resources. The DVD set was marketed as the complete series, which technically wasn't true, though the company likely hoped most buyers wouldn't notice or care about the missing episodes. Fans who did their research before purchasing quickly discovered the truth and pointed out the misleading packaging and online reviews, though most agreed that having 70 episodes was better than having none at all. The missing episodes have never been recovered despite efforts by television historians and collectors to locate them. Some have speculated that the episodes may exist in someone's private collection or in a vault somewhere, forgotten and undocumented. But if they do exist, they haven't surfaced publicly. This situation is unfortunately common with television shows from the 1950s and 60s, when networks and production companies didn't always maintain careful archives of their programming and often reused or even destroyed original film prints to save storage space. The fact that 70 episodes survived at all is actually fortunate, as many shows from this era have far fewer episodes available or have been lost entirely. Fact 15. One of the directors was an original Keystone Cop. Among the dozen or more directors who worked on the Texan throughout its 2 seasons, one stood out for having the most unusual and historically significant background in entertainment history. Earl C. Kenton, who directed 27 episodes of The Texan, had been working in Hollywood since the silent film era and had an entertainment pedigree that stretched back to the very beginnings of American comedy. Kenton was one of the original Keystone Cops, the famous slapstick police characters who appeared in dozens of silent comedy shorts produced by Mack Sennett's Keystone Studios beginning in 1912. These films, featuring wild chase scenes, pratfalls, and chaotic physical comedy, helped define early American cinema and made the Keystone Cops a cultural phenomenon. After his days as a comedic performer ended, Kenton transitioned into directing and spent the 1930s and 40s making low-budget horror films, including several entries in Universal's classic Dracula and Frankenstein series. By the time television became dominant in the 1950s, Kenton had become a reliable director for hire on various Western series, bringing his decades of experience in staging action, managing actors, and working quickly on limited budgets. The fact that someone who had been present at the birth of film comedy in the 1910s was directing episodes of a television Western in 1958 represents an extraordinary span of entertainment history, connecting The Texan to the earliest days of Hollywood in a way few other shows could claim.